Welcome in to the Jordy Culotta Show. Wave your hand out there, baby!
Shout out to the show.
She puts the pinky into the nostril. Man, look at that.
Healthy competition, there's nothing like it.
Y'all grow up.
The line's wrapped around the stadium.
Different strengths. I just lost a tooth.
It's going to be fun.
You know, we might have a story.
I love what you're doing there.
Ogeron wants to take us fishing this afternoon.
Sharif, you play for the bad boys of the SEC, man. We don't apologize to anybody.
A lot of people are saying you're going to be wearing number 7.
I don't really know. I want to. He look crazy, Bill.
Good feet on the old man.
Definitely come back.
We'll be right back with the Jordy Culotta Show. Welcome into a Wednesday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show, live here as always, built by RMB Builders, as we are live here on this Wednesday morning. Make sure you hit that like button, share button, comment button, as we'll be here with you until right around 9 a.m. this morning. We're going to talk to Jacques, as Jacques is heading down to New Orleans this morning, as it is opening day of training camp for the New Orleans Saints. Football is here, man. It is football season, and the Saints, with a flurry of news going into training camp, including reuniting with a former standout and bringing home a New Orleans native. We'll tell you all about it coming up here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Make sure, if you don't mind, hit that like button, that share button, that comment button. As daily, as we said, we're built by RMB Builders, Rhett Bourgeois and his crew. Great construction company. Reputable name. Get in touch with Rhett by just logging online to rmb-builders.com, rmb-builders.com, and you can also hit them on Instagram at RMB Builders. And we are daily, our phone line is brought to you by our friends over at Southern Regional Medical Center. Southern Regional Medical Center is formerly Metropolitan Health Group. Same great people, same great services. You can find them at Southern Regional Medical Center. Charlie Harvey and Jason Ramazan, and don't forget about Ramo. And Mr. Funds Travel, Jason Ramazan, putting together a trip to Orlando for LSU Florida State. Just a couple of seats remaining if you want to get over and watch the Tigers and Seminoles on opening college football weekend, as Ramazan will put together a trip. First-class airfare, travel from airport to hotel, hotel to game, game back to hotel, and then get you back to Baton Rouge. All safe and sound. It's a great way to travel. It's a great way to experience the game. If you're looking to go, jump online and get your spot today at MrFundsTravel.com. All right, so the opening day of New Orleans Saints training camp, we'll get to it here coming up. A huge weekend in college football recruiting, specifically for LSU, with the Bayou Splash Party coming up on Friday night. We talked to the latest commitment yesterday, Tylen Singleton. If you missed that, go check it out right here on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe before you get out of here if you've not already done that. But people expecting some commitments to come down this weekend. There's going to have a ton of targets on campus, including the remaining uncommitted players in Louisiana that's on the board, Wardell Mack and Big Dominic McKinley from over in Lafayette. The two standouts from Duncanville will be here in Colin Simmons, the 5-star edge rusher, and Caden Durham, the 4-star running back, will be in town. They also have some guys that are have been kind of late to pop here, including an offensive lineman named Blake Ivy out of Texas, who they've really moved on and put themselves in a good spot. So huge recruiting weekend for the Tigers coming up here, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we are coming up on a big weekend for LSU. But first, we have been sitting on an announcement that I want to get out of the way, and I want to get everybody up to speed, and I want to tell everybody how excited we are about it. As a lot of things are changing over here. We said we told you yesterday about Katie getting back to her home life and really stepping back especially from an on-air standpoint of her commitment and time to the show. And here over the next couple of weeks, we are going to begin construction at our new studio, which is going to be on the campus of Click Here Digital. Click Here Digital is a local company here in Louisiana, and it is the third largest digital marketing consulting company in the country. It's the top digital marketing company in the state of Louisiana. And I can tell you that, man, just from an opportunity standpoint, to work alongside so many talented people, their great CEO, Bo White, and I connected a couple of months ago, and it has been an incredible journey to get to this point. And the future, man, is incredibly bright. That we have jumped aboard with just such a rock solid company in Click Here Digital. And some more exciting news. So the show is going to originate from Click Here Digital. And you want to check them out online. I will tell you that Click Here Digital has mastered digital marketing. They run digital marketing campaigns for 7 out of the 10 largest automotive dealerships in the country, including the number 1 largest Hendrick auto dealers in the country. So, I mean, look, this is a huge, massive opportunity for us really to work alongside a rock-solid company with so many talented people. So the show is going to originate on their campus every day, right? And the build-out on the studio is beginning August 6th or August 7th. It should take about 2 weeks, give it some tests, and then get in for football season. We should be cranked up and ready to go starting September 1st. And so we will originate on Click Here's campus every day, and I've actually been hired to run their business development. The crazy part about Click Here Digital is that they are a company that's valued at right around like $100 million. I think they're valued at like $99 million.
Just went way up.
And they have no sales team. They've not done any like outbound marketing and sales efforts. Everything has been referrals and word of mouth. People that have worked with Bo and his company have just stuck, and they've told all their friends, like, man, you got to go work with Click Here because they're changing our lives. They're changing our company. They're changing, how we operate. And, for that reputation alone in that business, just kind of shows you, the reputation that Click Here has. But I'm going to be heading up their business development and starting that with a great team over there of going out and doing outbound sales and marketing. And the show is really going to be kind of the soundboard, the megaphone, the
conduit,
kind of the piece. And, going onto that campus and working alongside all these people, they have divisions that just specialize in social media marketing, in SEO, in SEM, in YouTube, in all points of digital marketing is mastered by their process and by the talented people that go through it every day. And we will have exposure to that on this show, right? Like for the first time, we'll have some real production creative team, right? Where, this crew has been incredible over the last 2 years of just building it while the plane is in the air. And now having some true creative team members and people that specialize in, getting our show out there and, really kind of maximizing this partnership with Click Here Digital. I cannot tell you how excited we are. Kind of the journey to get here has just been incredible, and such a learning process and such a humbling process that to, kind of look up and be on the doorstep of the largest digital marketing company in our state and one of the largest in the country. And as we've, been in business over the last couple of weeks, it has been true to see the respect that people around the country, decision makers, high level, C-level executives have for not only Click Here Digital, but the people that work there. And now to be a part of that, we're excited, man. We're super, super excited, super humbled by the opportunity, and cannot wait to get started, really. I mean, as the business development side has started, and we'll be telling you about Click Here Digital, because they'll turn into really kind of the sponsor. You know, Click Here Digital will bring you the Jordy Culotta Show every day. So we will be kind of educating you on, if your company can use digital marketing services, then it really makes no sense to go anywhere but Click Here, especially if you're a listener here. If you run an automotive dealership, their reputation speaks for themselves. They run the biggest lawyers in town, in the South, in the region. They're overseeing their digital marketing campaigns. I would just advise you, jump on their website and check out who they are, because I could sit here and tell you about them for 2 hours. ClickHereDigital.com is the website. ClickHereDigital.com is where you find them online. So a lot of exciting stuff happening right now for us, our team, our show, our company, and everything moving around it. So as always, we can't do this without all of your support. Thank you for all of that. And it will, I kind of get choked up thinking about it, but just the support out there from really day one, of this journey to get to where we are right now, and all of you kind of being here along everything that's going on. Thank you. I don't know if I can say that enough, and I hope you know that I mean it from every fiber in my being, that I just am humbled and thankful and grateful for everything, and all the support to get here. But yes, the show, people are asking, will the show change? The show's not going to change, really. I mean, we're really going to try and keep kind of this feel of it, as far as, very personable, kind of invite everybody in. We want it to kind of feel like a living room. And we're moving on to a really beautiful campus over at Click Here Digital, which is located just right there on Interline, in between Drusilla and Airline, right next to I-12. And the show actually will have some forward-facing interstate access that we're probably going to kind of paint the back wall and kind of show off where we are. So the ideas of what we can do over there are really expanding, but we will keep the look. And obviously, the location has been great for inviting guests on, especially from LSU. I mean, like this week, or last week, you saw Scott Woodward come through here. Matt McMahon came through here a couple of weeks ago. Greg Brooks will be here tomorrow. That's a really easy drive for those guys. I mean, really and truly, as a crow flies, we're probably 2 minutes from campus, from here. Where we're moving to would be about a 10 to 15 minute drive. So the only thing that may change, even though I got to be honest, I've been loving doing these interviews on site, like kind of going to them. We did that with Kim Mulkey earlier this week, which, by the way, Lloyd did some post-production on that and got it up on the on YouTube yesterday. So nice work on that, Lloyd.
Thanks, sir.
Shout out to
that's the real heroes.
Shout out to Murray and Claire Rogers, as they have really and truly, we were experimenting with kind of a style of what we wanted to look like in these interviews. And we really started it with the Brian Kelly interview. And I had a vision, right? And I just kind of was like, Murray, what do you think, man? Murray and Claire are a husband and wife production team that work together that is, like the professionalism and just the expertise and what they bring to a production site and set is I cannot really kind of describe how much they just ease everybody. But what they have in turn produced was far more than I could have ever kind of envisioned. That's the setup of Brian Kelly inside the football team room, Kim Mulkey in her office, all that really is kind of coming from their eyes. They put together the Mulkey interview and really, I thought, produced a masterpiece. The sound alone, the audio is like
And for them to,
I mean, you can hear the ice in the glass shaking.
well, and to their credit, Claire and Murray have never really, they kind of was on the fly too. Like with the first thing with the Brian Kelly interview, that one was a different, we had, different partners from different people putting it all together. And for them to be able to go on the fly a little bit and produce that kind of quality, you can see how almost the stone turned with the Kim Mulkey interview. It was turnkey as opposed to Brian Kelly. There's a lot of moving pieces.
Sure.
So everybody gets, obviously you get better with everything that you do. And from them kind of being put on call for the Brian Kelly to being a little bit of notice and showing you what the full force of being prepared looks like and how you can set up the Kim Mulkey interview and knock it out in an hour as opposed to the Brian Kelly turnaround, which took like a week, So shout out to them for being able to flip that thing around, get the quality that they have, which is unbelievable in terms of what the video looks like, the audio. It's so much. It's just, it's masterclass of what audio and video should look like.
It's great. So shout out to our crew with Claire and Murray Rogers. They own and run Doxology Films, which is a full-service production company. They do everything, man, and they are masterful at the editing part. In fact, we're putting together a new intro for the show, and we have tasked them with that exercise, and I can't wait to see what they come back with. All right, so football season is here. We got a lot to get to. Saints sign Jimmy Graham. I don't know, how do we feel about this, right? They reunite with one of the all-time greats, somebody who was kind of, when you think about his time with New Orleans, he got there in 2010. He played until 2014, and without question was the golden era of his career. Now, he went on to play 12 seasons, 4 teams, amassed over 8,500 yards, went to 5 Pro Bowls, but as we said, 4 of them were when he was with New Orleans. He ended up playing with Seattle and did some time in Chicago as well. But when he was here for the first time, him and Drew Brees had a special connection, especially when you look at that 2013, 2014, 2012. From 2012 to 2014, he was as big of a threat as there was in the league, especially when you got inside the 20-yard line. Now, when he got to Seattle, this was more of Russell Wilson really embracing the time of when he was a runner. I mean, at that point in Russell Wilson's career, he would probably be considered a running quarterback at that time.
Is that Russell Wilson?
Yeah. I mean, early. This is like 2015.
Well, he definitely has, his game has, I don't want to say evolved, especially after last year, but during that time, it was almost, he was mobile to be able to get you open.
Yeah,
He
would
kind
tuck
of
it.
like Jaden Daniels was at the beginning of last year. He was very nervous and scared to turn the ball over.
Right.
And he would play as if, hey, if I don't have to throw it, I'm cool with running it. Right? He turned into a passing quarterback once he got the contracts, and obviously now. I'm just saying, what I'm trying to do is make excuses for Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, I don't know what I think it's more of you have to give Drew Brees his credit. Like you can almost owe Jimmy Graham's career to Drew Brees because of how accurate and how he was able to put it on a dot for Jimmy to be able to go up and score what he had a season where he had 16 touchdowns. And then Drew Brees pretty much Drew Brees and their connection pretty much made Jimmy Graham to be that big of a piece. I mean, remember the contract dispute he went through because they used him so much. They were lining him up as a wide receiver essentially. Right. And he started going, hey, you got to pay me like a wide receiver. And Nick Saban. Sean Payton was like, I don't think, brother, we're going to scoot you in a little bit more now. Now you're just going to start playing tight end because they looked at the number of snaps. And then it got to a point where he was adamant about being paid like a wide receiver. Sean Payton said, we'll just flip you for Max Unger and a first-round pick. And then his kind of career dwindled from there. Yeah, and he people thought that it could be revitalized. He went to Green Bay in 2018 and teamed up with Aaron Rodgers. And look, I mean, he had 55 grabs, but he only had 2 touchdowns. And that was kind of the deal with him, is that he was a touchdown machine. And outside of, one season in Seattle, 2017, where he had 10 touchdowns, he never got to double-digit scores, outside of his time in New Orleans, where he did it 3 times. I mean, he did it in 2011 with 11. He did it in 13 where he caught 16, as Lloyd was talking about. And then in 2014, he caught 10 touchdowns. So, it was by far the best part of his career. Now, as of late, he
he's gotten old. And, I mean, that's the way it goes in the NFL. You age very quickly and, even to a point where he didn't even play last season. And, I am very weary about really at any level stepping away from football and trying to step back into it. I think if you're a high level athlete and you've not played high school football and you want to play for your junior, senior year, it's real, it's feasible to think that somebody can do that. Right? Once you get to college and like into the SEC and especially to the professional level where you take a year or two off of football, it's a little bit of a, it's got to be a shock period of getting back to just that speed, that physical, that demanding, that schedule when you just didn't have it, right? And that to me is the part where I love the nostalgic of the Jimmy Graham signing. I love to see Jimmy Graham in the Saints uniform. In fact, he's wearing number 80 again. I mean, it's all kind of making sense and all plays in. But, I mean, I love Juwan Johnson. I love the signing of Foster Moreau. I mean, unless there's a real need, I don't see a real scenario that Jimmy Graham makes the final cut, right? I mean, do they need him? I mean,
there's no way that you bring Jimmy Graham with all this fanfare and then he doesn't make the roster. But to your point, whenever they took the picture of him signing the contract, people don't know if it was for him to A, retire as a Saint, B, become a coach for the Saints, C, was way down the list of playing for the Saints. So I can see what you're saying because when you step out that game and you don't live that life anymore, I mean,
Coach,
it'll hit you in the face trying to play professional football again.
And then I got to go play it again? I mean, like.
So you got to be 100% in. So I don't think he's signing just to try to fight for a roster spot. I think he probably had some guarantees, vet men, where, hey, you're going to make the roster. And then you'll get out. Even if you just use him in the goal line, you can see what he can. I would imagine he's still got a little juice left.
You would think, but I mean, like, if I give you the names, Juwan Johnson, Foster Moreau, Taysom Hill, and Jimmy Graham, which one doesn't make sense? I'm being serious. Honestly.
I mean, Taysom at tight end doesn't really, I don't know what.
Would you take Taysom Hill over Jimmy Graham?
I would take the player, but I wouldn't take him at that position.
But that's what he is.
Yeah, well, I like what he does outside of, like, I don't think they want to use Taysom Hill in that role anymore where he has to kind of do the dirty work. He's getting older. They still want that explosive ability where he can be a playmaker. I don't know if they want him inline blocking, because he can do it. He's a massive human being. He's a freak. But I think that they want to use his playmaking, and the same thing with Jimmy Graham, where they're going to be almost like role specific, where you see them run out packages when Jimmy Graham comes out in the red zone. Juwan Johnson can kind of do the same thing. So if you put both of them on the field at the same time, you have two guys that can go up and get it.
Juwan Johnson is more of like
a wide
every
receiver.
down tight end.
Yeah, he's a more of a modern day.
Put him
tight
in
end.
first down, second down.
Yeah.
And once we get to the red zone, Jimmy Graham.
Jimmy Graham can slide in, and I think they're going to use Foster more as because you could split Juwan Johnson out. He played wide receiver in college, so you could move him out, put Foster in.
Foster's the inline guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And you have to worry a little bit about. I mean, Foster's coming back from cancer, so I guess you're just trying to stack the position and see who works and who doesn't. But I would be shocked if Jimmy Graham signs and gets cut, because that would be I guess the news cycle moves on, but it would be
maybe not cut. Maybe that's the wrong word for it, but I mean like stashed away.
Yeah,
for
sure. I mean, I don't think he's playing 80 snaps.
I mean, if you're counting on Jimmy Graham, you're in a spot at tight end.
If he can still do this. No,
I mean,
that was 2021, Coach.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, he should have dunked it.
He ran out the stadium. The game was over.
No.
Was it game winner?
No, it was 21-9 Saints.
Oh God, is that not the
Mitchell
most?
Trubisky was the quarterback.
Yeah, that's the most
basketball
Bears score ever. Yeah.
I think if people remember the past on Jimmy Graham, he was a standout basketball player at Miami. At the U. And was a dual sport guy, and then went to football. Saints made him a draft pick, and we'll see. We'll see how this tight end situation moves out. And then they sign another kind of nostalgic pick. They bring back an LSU player here, and they bring back an offensive lineman, a New Orleans native, and Trey Turner, a St. Aug alum, in Trey Turner, who is from the city and is now with the Saints. Over the last couple of years, he's bounced around after playing his first 4 years with Carolina. He played with the Chargers in 2020. He played with the Steelers in 2021, and last season he played with the Washington Commanders. He played in 16 games last year. He played 17 for the Pittsburgh Steelers the year before. This is more of a signing that I really think, potentially could help the Saints out immediately this season, whether it be as somebody that could maybe step in and compete for a starting spot, or somebody that could definitely give you quality depth. I mean, somebody that you can look at from an offensive line standpoint that, you could grow to trust, and somebody who's got really good experience and, has probably seen just about everything in the league. I mean, I doubt there's anything that Trey Turner, would be really, shocked to find and see in an NFL game. I mean, he's been around. He's played a long time. And, he's a guy that I think, is somebody that could really, really push for a spot. So I love the signing of.
Have the Saints had a more interesting 2 years in free agency than they've had the last 2 years?
No, because they've had to really become creative on how they've cut the cap and how they've moved people around. I mean, they've made some hard decisions, and you have to credit them, because you look at the situations that they have been in at certain times, and you're like, how are they going to get out of here? Like, how are they going to be competitive? And the fact that the Saints have remained competitive, I mean, there are so many examples around the league of franchises and teams that just, I guess, can't figure it out, because it seems like Mickey Loomis and, the staff with the Saints have got it figured out on just how to stay competitive, like how to remain a competitive, real, contending team year in, year out. I mean, some years teams just say, we got a tank. We don't have, no
wiggle room.
You could be the Arizona Cardinals for the last 3 years. We just got no players. You got nobody, they got nobody around. Detroit over the last, 20 years. Finally, they feel like they're getting out of just the graveyard of being subprime, just being, there's no way they're going to be competitive. I mean, how many franchises over the last 20 years really had chances to win the Super Bowl? Until Burrow showed up, nobody believed in Cincinnati. Until Mike McDaniel showed up, nobody believed in Miami. Until Aaron Rodgers showed up, nobody's really believed in the Jets. I mean, there's a sense of stability around the Saints when there shouldn't be.
There's been conversations going into every year where you look at the cap number and it became a conversation of, what if the Saints don't get under the cap? What's the punishment? Because no team has ever, obviously it's starting to get to a point where you feel like the cap's not real. Like the number always is moving up or moving down, and that you found a way to finagle to get under it if you're the Saints.
It's just not real.
But yeah, they've been over the cap for forever. And, well, they're over it, then they get under it. And the way that they move the money around by signing people to, whether it be like you give them bonuses in terms of like a signing bonus, and you can extend their money out for long-term contracts. Like, that's what they've been doing. It's kicking the can down the road. And then last year it kind of reached ahead to where they were so far above the cap. There were conversations of, what's the punishment for not getting under the cap? Like, no NFL team has ever done it. Then you look back, and now the Saints have more cap room than they've had in the last 5 years. They're $10 million under the cap.
Saints when they see the cap space.
It's not real. How'd you pull that up so fast?
Twitter's a great place, Coach.
Wait, what was that?
The Saints when they see the cap.
The Saints when they see the cap space.
Did anybody find
What
her?
a legend.
She is.
I mean, for somebody that loves to fall off the map and like go incognito. I mean, like, who is she? Where is she?
Bunky Perkins said that she knows somebody that went to high school with her, and
is
he
she
wouldn't.
from Louisiana?
I don't
Gotta
know.
be. There's always a tie back to Louisiana.
Because
Yeah.
Bunky Perkins is Bunky Perkins.
Bunky Perkins.
Like,
But I mean, when you see that scenario of that woman get up and do that, are you not following her off the plane?
yes.
I know it's hard. I mean, it depends on where we're going because getting on the flight is probably the hardest part of flying.
Golly.
Because once you get there, you feel like you're at your destination.
Well, I mean, just
But
30
if
minutes
she
in, the
does
first
that-
sense of turbulence, I've been like, damn it, I knew I should have got off that crazy bitch.
She might have known something out there.
She might have known
Smelled like
something.
Chardonnay, but she was on one. She knew your instincts are right.
Oh, no.
There's an
no,
article.
no.
There's an article on Complex that says it's the woman who went viral for yelling about not real person on the plane actually the
real.
one who's not real.
I mean,
It's so
She
hard to
just
slide back
disappeared.
into obscurity like
I mean,
that.
like in 2023,
Joe Rogan would want to have her on a podcast.
at this point,
Yes.
I mean, in 2023, to be able to fall off the map is really hard to do. I mean, like a sister, a cousin,
Somebody.
enemy,
Somebody had to come
a
on. And be like,
boyfriend. I mean,
Somebody
like,
else on the plane.
Somebody's like, hey, look, just try this number.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Look, I'm
like,
just warning you now.
Yeah, like heads up.
there
Like,
might be
just
nothing to the story, but you can talk to her.
check this address.
Or, I mean, it's either that if it's real, if that what she said that there was this he blinked like elevator doors, like his eyes closed a different way. You would think that would the government want him to be safe on the plane? Like, is that how he's moving? Like, did they know about him too? And then you'd want to be on that plane because they're not letting that thing go down.
wow. There's names out there, but I don't think they're like.
Dude, she's the hardest person to find in the world. She's DB Cooper.
What about her? What about when she does show up?
Oh,
I mean, it's gonna be
What if she's just
whoever
grinding in the
gets her
gym?
is gonna be a hell of a drop.
oh yeah.
You know, like,
It's already been done.
Right,
Post producing
right.
it. Because you're almost at the point where I think this is timeless. Like, it'll never be old news. Like, when she pops up on an interview, you're not going to go, where's that from? You're like, oh, that's the
Oh,
girl.
there she is.
Yes. I mean, that's an all-time
DiCaprio
get.
and,
Uh-huh.
Wow. Like I'm
Hey!
mind blown because they really like nobody knows who
No,
this
nobody
lady
can
is.
find her.
It's unbelievable.
Nobody
Wow.
can find her.
Disappearing act.
I mean, like I've
Or
heard,
the government
I've heard
has her.
tales that like she's from like Lafayette.
Yeah.
She might be.
Like I've
That,
heard,
that gives high like
I'm telling you,
River Ranch energy.
Yeah.
It does.
Like, that's River Ranch energy for sure.
From
If
the
I
ferry
ever
to
saw
River Ranch.
It would make a ton of sense if she was an Acadiana chick.
it.
Like just like
If she is, then somebody definitely knows her. Then-
I probably know somebody.
yeah,
that
that's
knows
what I'm
her.
saying. That crew runs together.
no doubt. I mean, like somebody's got to have an identity on her.
Probably
Or-
somewhere drinking wine.
On the porch. Just by the pool.
Where's my Xanax?
Yeah,
Do you have my Zinfandel?
I need getting me a biozip.
All right, so a huge day in recruiting as well. Kai Bates is expected to announce his college choice today. I believe it's at 5:30 Central Time, coming up this afternoon. He has his list is down to Bama, Colorado, Florida State, LSU, Texas A&M, Tennessee, and Ohio State. LSU felt like the play for a minute, but I believe Tennessee is the team to beat. And just kind of listening and reading around, I'm not sure that anybody else has a chance here besides LSU and Tennessee. People believe that this is going to be a close one. I know On3 has them just in the lead for the Tigers for Kai Bates. But there's also some rumors around Tennessee making a big, strong push for Bates here lately. So this is going to have a little drama, I think. I think this is going to have a little bit of intrigue of,
Little head throw.
Tennessee, LSU, kind of like both teams wondering who's it going to be, and until the last minute. Now I'm sure the staff knows. Whether or not he's going to, as Frank Wilson said, if you ever are waiting for the announcement to find out where a player went, that means you're not getting him.
Would you say if you hear I'll have to pray about it?
Yeah.
And, he ain't coming.
Yeah,
but
he's not coming
We're
here.
still thinking, Coach.
I'll get back to you.
We'll
You're going to be
call
the
you.
last one to know.
We'll call you. He usually just hangs that phone call up and
Yeah,
says, on to the next one.
But, I mean, when you look at the On3, the RPM recruiting predicting machine from On3.com, LSU has the lead with 23.3%, Florida State at 15, Alabama 13, Tennessee at 11. So I have heard the same thing that you have from that. It felt like it was good. He was, like, blown away by the Tennessee visit. But if Hunter Fournette in the chat, who is now, he says he's putting all of his money on Kai Bates coming to LSU, and he is on the recruiting board. So
Well, I mean, he's going to be at the Bayou Splash.
that's the thing.
I would,
It's like
I was about to
it's like a
say,
commitment party.
Yeah,
And-
I wouldn't go to the Bayou Splash if I wasn't coming to LSU.
Right. I mean, if I threw the Tennessee hat on and I showed up in Baton Rouge this weekend, that'd be a tough.
Yeah, fat kid in the pool.
What are you doing here?
Yeah,
right.
you're
Shouldn't
not
you
one
be
of
in
us.
Knoxville?
Doesn't even go here.
You don't even go here.
Came
So-
here for the free canes.
LSU Kai
Jet ski.
Bates sitting in a great spot for a 5:30 announcement, as he will be at the Bayou Splash this weekend. Late push by Tennessee. Does it feel like it was enough for to hold off LSU? LSU's been on a heater here lately in recruiting, and looks like they're going to try and close a lot of that up this weekend so they can get into the season. It's interesting how you manage this stuff now, right? I mean, how you try and get how many commitments are they at? 17, 18? What was Singleton? I believe Singleton was the 18th. 19th commitment. So you pick up Bates today, you got 20. You still got McKinley and Mack on the board.
Simmons on the board.
You still got Simmons and Durham on the board. Where are we at? We're at 24.
You can sign more than 25.
Yeah, you can. And then you still got your transfer class.
Yeah, but I don't know how many transfers they'll take at this point. Like, you kind of like
You
see
kept
where-
that early.
You see where they've went in the portal, so it's kind of like
Yeah, you
they've
got your portal guys,
right.
and now it's on to recruiting. And especially if you get a guy like Kai Bates, what it feels like they are, that's what Shea was talking about, where you start building up the DB room so you don't have to go to the portal to snag those guys like they've been doing the past 2 years. And if you've seen Kai Bates' tape, he's a player.
Yeah.
Like, player. So that would be a huge get for not only LSU, but for the defensive back room to start rebuilding that and bring it back to what LSU was, which is bringing in high-level recruits in the DB room where you pretty much can plug and play. You start off with Talviano. Laterris Welch is going to be awesome. I feel like he's going to be a big-time player for LSU. And then you get a guy like Kai Bates. You start building up that room to where you don't have to look into the portal every time because, as Brian Kelly said, it's not a solution, really. It's a cherry-on-top scenario where you go find people that fit specifically what you need. And for LSU, it's been the defensive back room lately, and that's not really what they want to do at that position because it's so hard to identify somebody that can play, especially in the SEC at this level where you put somebody out there that can't go, you get exposed real quick.
Yeah, and if you look at LSU now, like they've built every room up, essentially, like to not have to go to the portal. I would think one room that they might want to look at probably after the season or before the season is D-line, because I mean we see where the D-line recruiting has been lately, and it's not where it was.
No.
So if it was one position I could think of that they might need to go get a player from in the portal is D-line.
Yeah, that does look like a place where they have not had as much success as they have had in other areas, but there's still an opportunity to get guys. I mean, you close with Colin Simmons and Dominic McKinley, and you're able to pull some more of these guys off the board. Well, I mean, that's a strong class for Jimmy Lindsey in the opening season. I mean, I think even if you look at just Simmons alone.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
player.
Simmons is day one, play one, game one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Colin, step over here. What number do you want?
Exactly.
7? There you go.
Yeah.
You got it.
Right.
0?
I mean,
He might get 0.
Pass that thing down.
I was on a radio show yesterday, and they were asking about the LSU defensive back room, and you listen to some of the sound bites for LSU and Brian Kelly at SEC Media Day. Man, he did not duck and run from that question. And I went back and listened to a lot of the media from some of the isolated rooms outside of the big room that Brian Kelly was in. And, he was asked specifically about his defensive backs a lot. And he did not – he didn't shy away from, having some real issues in the defensive backfield, right? From just a experience, from a depth, from a personnel standpoint. And when you look at LSU going into the season and – you ask whether or not they are a championship contending team. I believe they are. I believe they are on both lines of scrimmage with the depth that they have at the offensive line, with the players that they have on the defensive line, getting Mason Smith back into the fold and putting him alongside Mekhi Wingo and having a versatile athlete like Harold Perkins. You put a lot of offenses in some – they're going to be in a crunch where, what do we do? Do you double team the best defender in college football, potentially in Harold Perkins, from coming off the edge and coming off the outside? Or do you have to commit to, putting two guys over Mason Smith because he's wrecking the whole game? And, I think that there's going to be some real problems that their defense presents, especially on the line of scrimmage for people this season that, barring they can stay healthy. They got to stay healthy. Obviously, wide receivers, they're elite. They might have the best wide receiver room in the conference. They might have a top 3 unit in the country. You look at the running backs. I mean, they've gone from who's going to carry it to 7 guys to choose from. Really. I mean, overnight, they went from last season, Josh Williams is going to be your primary back, and people are saying, who? Are you serious? To, him being developed into one of the leaders on the team and having some really nice players there, to having now, a just wide selection of Noah Cain, Logan Diggs, Trey Bradford, John Emery. I mean, I haven't even gotten to the guys that they want to play yet. Armani Goodwin, Josh Williams. You got 2 of the top backs coming in from the state of Louisiana in Caleb Jackson and Trey Holly that, Holly was their primary back in spring and has a great leg up on going into the fall. On not just Caleb Williams, but just the room. I mean, it's gone. My point being is that it's gone from being a point of concern to almost a luxury spot. I mean, look, they don't have that home run hitter. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they do. But you don't know if they do at this point. And it may not be the quality. Maybe you have the quantity. But, I'd say out of the 7, you're going to find 2 or 3 that you can count on every Saturday. They got the best quarterback room in the country. If it's not the best quarterback room, it's argued that it's the best quarterback room. If you're in that discussion, you got the best quarterback room. We mentioned the linebacker with Harold Perkins. They bring in Omar Speights maybe a little bit. I think Greg Penn feels as if he's got a lot to prove this season. You ask people give me a name around the building. Equipment staffer, weight room staffer, players, coaches. One name. Who you got? Greg Penn. Seems to be the most brought up, the one that's the most common that people say, look out. Dude's motivated. And it makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, who has everybody talked about for the last 14 months?
Mason.
Harold Perkins.
Mason.
I mean, the guy that's playing right alongside him, which I'm not saying that there's any type of jealousy from the shine. I'm just saying that while everybody's looking and saying how great Perkins is, Penn's been in the weight room doing his work, getting right, and wanting to have a breakout season. Penn was also one of those guys that they had to play defense on in the offseason. I would say that their top 2 guys that they really recruited on the roster to hang around and stay would be Marlon Martinez and Greg Penn. And, those are the types of recruiting awards you have to win that we never even talk about. I mean, you ask the staff, you ask guys that are heading up recruiting, hey, what's a more important recruit? Getting Greg Penn to stay or getting a 4-star linebacker out of Texas that you're going to have to develop over the next 2 years? And immediately they're going to tell you to win right now, you got to get Penn. So some of those recruiting wars that we don't talk about, that we don't know, that we don't have a lot of ideas that are going on because it never hits the portal, right? Like, I mean, there was a lot of discussion with Marlon Martinez right after the bowl and going back to a spring of, hey, what's it going to be, man? I had a great bowl against Purdue. You got Charles Turner coming back. It's time for Martinez to play, and LSU had to put the full court press on recruiting him back to say, hey, look, you're going to have as good an opportunity to play as anybody else. You'll be in competition. So, I mean, I think that they've got depth, numbers, and guys at every spot. You ask me one concern, it's defensive back. And it's not because I don't think that they have players. It's because I just hadn't seen the players that they have do it. And in just like every sport and just like every year, you got somebody step up that we're not talking about right now. Mekhi Wingo last season.
Whew.
How much were we really talking about him during this point of the year? I mean, everything was about Mason Smith. Everything was about B.J. Ojulari. Everything was about, a lot more guys than Mekhi Wingo stepping onto the scene and becoming a dominant player in a role that, nobody really thought he was going to have to.
He didn't even think he was going to have to do that.
No, but he was obviously prepared to do it.
No, but like even when we had him on, like before the season, I would say we were both extremely impressed by him, and not only like just the way he carried himself and the way that he was talking, and even the offensive line that came with him was telling us, you need to watch out for Mekhi Wingo. He's hard because of his size and his stature and his game. He's nearly impossible to block because you don't see a lot of guys at that position look the way he does. And all they talked about was his effort and energy and output every day. He goes 100%. And so when you hear those things about a player and you combine that with talent, you knew you had something there, but he didn't think he was going to have to play that many snaps. So he was able to go hard until you get to week 1, play 4, and you look, and then Mason Smith goes down. It's next man up. It's Mekhi Wingo, and he played as good as you can play at defensive line last year.
You couldn't have played any better.
No, and for him to get the pressure off of him, you talk about Harold Perkins and everybody around him, but if you bring in a Mason Smith, that makes it so much easier for Mekhi Wingo.
It does. And then you look at defensive back, right? And you just are curious. I love Greg Brooks. Greg Brooks is going to be here tomorrow morning, actually, at 8 a.m. So tune in, set your alarm, set your alert to make sure and not miss that. Greg Brooks is going to be here. I love Major Burns. I think having those two guys on this team was a must. To have the experience, to have the leadership, to have the voice, the example, because you look around those two guys, and outside of Sage Ryan, there's not a real veteran in sight at LSU. Right? I mean, LaTerrence Welsh, Denver Harris, Zy Alexander, J.K. Johnson, Deuce Chestnut, Javion Taviano, Ryan Yates, Jordan Allen. I mean, like, they got names. They got guys. And somebody out of that pack's going to be a stud. Right? I'd put my money on either Welsh or Harris at this point. But it wouldn't surprise me to watch out, somebody we're not even talking about. Maybe like a Matthew Langlois or a Jordan Allen, Deuce Chestnut, right? Like, I mean, what was Chestnut? He was a freshman All-American, wasn't he, with his time in the ACC? Okay. I like that on the resume. Does it translate to the SEC? I'm sure it does in a lot of areas, but in the defensive backfield, that's a little different of a spot. There's not the line of defensive back recruiting between a DB playing in the Big Ten and the SEC is probably about a step and a half. I mean, you think about what's the most populated position group on a football team. You look at the what's the biggest room in a football facility? Wide receiver and defensive back?
Yeah.
On a good team, you probably have 12, 10 to 12. So think about that. Every recruiting cycle, you're taking 10 to 12. On every team, you usually have about 8 to 12 DBs and wide receivers. So what's that you're recruiting every cycle? 2 to 3? Every year you're recruiting 2 to 3 DBs and wide receivers. The line that you're saying this is the SEC qualification for a DB and that's a Big Ten ACC DB, I'd imagine is pretty glaring. I'd imagine it doesn't take a coach a long time to say SEC, ACC. But there's got to be more than a handful that slips through the cracks, right? And if you're an All-American type player in one of those leagues, maybe it does translate. I mean, does Zy Alexander translate from Strawberry Stadium? What league is that? I'm sorry, I'm not no disrespect, but I mean, what is that? Conference USA? What is South? I mean, like the Sun Belt?
Southeastern? Are they in the South? No, they're in the Southland.
Southland.
Yeah, they're in the Southland.
Southland.
Made a trip to Old.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I didn't mean any
Strawberry
disrespect
Stadium,
by that to the
No.
people of Hammond. But I mean, I know he's a player. He looked great at Southeastern. Does that translate to the SEC? Who was our boy from Nichols a couple of years ago? That Darren Evans?
Darren Evans.
That they put him in on the opening game against Mississippi State? You might as well have put me out there.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he was running around as if it was he was running in circles.
They were running circles around him. He was standing still.
So, I mean, J.K. Johnson went to Ohio State. Does that translate to LSU in the SEC? You would think so? Yeah. I would think so.
I mean, going against them receivers every day, it better translate.
Yo, that would make me want to leave.
Like,
get me out of Ohio State. I got to line up against Marvin Harrison and Jigba. Like, there ain't no breaks.
And if you're Sage Ryan, you answer the question on whether or not you're a pro this year.
Yeah.
Really?
It's a make or break year for Sage.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy. He's a redshirt sophomore.
Oh yeah, because O gave him.
What's the classification on Sage Ryan?
I would not. I would
have never guessed
I would
that.
have said redshirt senior.
Yeah.
Oh, I got him as a senior.
Yeah, I thought he was.
I got him as a 6-year senior.
Like,
He could play 2 more years if he wanted at LSU.
Yeah.
For him,
He's available.
For him, I don't know how attractive that is.
Yeah.
Right?
We got a safety named Sage Ryan. He won't be available this week.
He's available. Late game scratch.
But I also know that the 3-year bell at LSU, if you're not ringing it,
somebody behind you is.
Gotta go.
You better look behind. You better look over your shoulder, because it's just, you know, that's the nature of the competition. Eat
Or get eaten.
or get eaten.
And for Sage, it's kind of been a mercurial career at LSU, because you don't know, he's in that same, you kind of saw it with Jacoby Stevens early on. It's like, you're so athletic, we don't know where to put you, but once you find a spot for him, he just needs a spot where he can settle so he knows what he's doing. It feels like he's been pulled in so many different directions that it's hard for him to settle in at a spot. Like, even when we talk about him now, he's going to play nickel, safety, corner. Like, you don't know where they're going to put him and where he actually fits, but you can see the athleticism. Like, it pops off the screen, especially when you saw him what he did in high school. I mean, he was a 5-star that LSU absolutely had to get, and you get him on campus, but now you don't exactly know where to use him. It's like, who was it? Devontae Lee.
Uh-huh.
Where you kind of did the same thing. Where, like, I know he's a freak show, but I'm not sure where to put him. And with Sage Ryan, if you can find a role for him, because now that it feels like the DB room is kind of getting filled out, whether they did it through the portal or through recruiting, with Terrace Welsh, Denver Harris, you listed them all, Deuce Chestnut, it feels like you can slot Sage into an actual position now, where you don't have to, he doesn't have to be a Band-Aid for you, like, well, we got Sage, run him out there. Now you can give him a spot, and he can practice it.
Taviano looks like a guy he's going to be tough to keep off the field at some point. at some point. I mean, I'd imagine he's going to be covering kicks and on the punt team, and he's going to be a guy that stands out. And he'll get opportunities early on in maybe some blowout games, or maybe he's out there in big spots. But I know coming out of spring, they were elated about what he was able to digest.
I mean, in the spring game, he
didn't come off the field.
He played corner, nickel, and safety.
I mean, look, I'm not saying that's but that has to show you, if nothing else, what they think about him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I'm not saying that he's going to play. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that that's guaranteed that he's going to get playing time. He's still a freshman, and there's still a transition period to that. But him getting that responsibility 3 months onto campus, that's a big deal. That's something for, I mean, if you're Taviano, you're leaving spring practice thinking, I got a shot. I mean, like, they like me. They trust me. And, I mean, from a physical standpoint, he looks SEC ready. Who's the freshman in this class? They got Stamps from Rummel. They got is he from Rummel or Curtis?
Rummel.
They got the Ryan Yates.
Yeah, but he's safety.
But I'm just thinking of the DBs in this class. Kylan Jackson's coming in from Zachary, who I love.
Gonna be hard to keep him.
I love.
Put him on kickoff.
He's going to be on. I was
Jackson
about to say.
he will definitely be on the kickoff. He'll be all special teams units.
Jesus.
All special teams units.
He is shot out of a
so
cannon.
Taviano's in this class.
Taviano, Kylan Jackson,
Yates, Stamps,
and
the Hughes kid from Vegas.
Jeremiah Hughes.
Is he from Vegas?
Yeah, he's from Vegas.
Yeah, Bishop Gorman.
I wouldn't take him as a slouch either. He played with the #1 receiver in the country last year.
Yeah.
I had to go against him
He's
every day
day
in practice.
Right.
So.
And I think you're not going to count him as a freshman, but I think you're going to get a lot of output out of Laterrence Welsh this year.
Yeah.
Because from everybody that has come in here and talked about who was the get from last year's class, a lot of people were mentioning him as a player that you should be on the lookout for, and that it's at a position of need. Denver Harris has a lot of pressure on him because you're penciling him as your #1 corner. If he can't do that, that's when the DB room gets in disarray a little bit because you're expecting Denver Harris to be a 1. Somebody that you can pencil in island corner, you don't have to worry about that. Yes,
I think he'll respond.
But I'm saying if that doesn't happen, or if he's not able to play, or he's not healthy, anything like that, that's when you start to see the DB room shift up a little bit, where it's plug and play instead of all right, we have a stalwart corner where Denver Harris is a All-American at corner, and then that's when all the pieces around him fall in place.
Yeah. So I was just watching some clips from the spring game, and it was Greg Brooks at safety. At deep safety, Greg Brooks and Sage Ryan, and they had Taviano on the slide.
Mm-hmm.
He might play there.
So,
I'm telling you.
I mean,
to me, that's the spot on the field that is most up in the air.
And
I really believe inside the walls, they know who their guys are. I think that they've been playing and testing and experimenting with Denver Harris. They've been trying to see, like, dude, when we're on the road in November, you cannot quit on us. Do not bail out on us.
Wait.
And they are testing that mentally. They know what they got physically. Mm-hmm. I mean, Harris is a guy. He's a no-stretch guy. He rolls out of bed, he's running 4.3. You know what I mean? Like, he's one of these freak athletes that when you see him you throw him a ball that's a little bit too high, watch him explode off the ground and catch it with one hand, you're like, oh, my God.
Oh.
Like, okay, never mind. Like, come here, sit down.
Yeah, you're good.
Like, you're definitely going to play. But, let's just check the mentals on this stuff. Let's make sure that you're going to be you're checked in. And by all accounts, he is, right? And I think that, they know that's a dude. And if they can get him checked in, then, you do have a lockdown corner. Mm-hmm. You've got somebody that can, totally erase one side of the field. And I think that other corner – I'm with you. I think they know that Laterrence Welsh is the same way. Like, they have pushed him. They have challenged him. They have really, gotten to him by taking in all of these transfers, going and getting all these guys. Sure, they got to fill the roster to me and you, to everybody that's covering the program. I mean, like, it makes so much sense to us. If you're Laterrence Welsh sitting there watching day after day, guy after guy, shuffle through the locker room as a new face, you're thinking, damn, I mean, they're going to get all these DBs that they have to, they're obviously telling, like, hey, we need you to play now. I mean, J.K. Johnson's not leaving Ohio State and coming to LSU to sit on the bench again. I mean, Deuce Chestnut's been playing at Syracuse. He's not coming down here to ride the pine. And if you're LaTerrence Welsh, you're looking around saying, hey, man, I'm the dog. I've been here. I'm the one that paid the dues. I know the culture. I know what it takes to play here. I'm from the state. From just a competitive standpoint, that's got to fill your tank, man. That's got to get your juices flowing as far as if it's not now, when do you want it? And I think if you look up best case scenario for me on paper right now, I'm just playing a game that, is fun for sports podcast. Means nothing, right? To me, best case scenario, you look up game 1, day 1, starting on the field. You got Denver Harris at a corner. You got LaTerrence Welsh at a corner. You got Greg Brooks at a safety. You got Major Burns at a safety. And you got someone like Sage Ryan in the nickel.
I just don't like Sage in the nickel.
Okay, but to start, I like the experience. I like somebody that's been there. If he's not it, Taviano, buckle up. Keep it tight. Keep it strapped up today because you are a play away. Or maybe it's Deuce Chestnut. I mean, they've talked about Chestnut in the nickel. Maybe that's the spot where he fits in the SEC. Maybe he's not a corner in this league. Maybe he's a guy that can play on the inside.
He's physical.
But if you could answer in the same breath of the defensive backfield being the most concerning part, if you can answer the questions early on, LSU is they are as much of a contender to me as anybody. As anybody. You got the coach, you got the quarterback, you got the depth on the offensive line, you got a playmaker on the defensive line, you might have the best defensive player in college football, and you got the schedule that if you can get through it, you're in. That Bama game's going to be, it's back. That game is back. I mean, that game is, you're looking at, 40, 50 pros every Saturday now. I'm talking about freshmen to seniors. Guys that you'll look up and, Taviano might not take a snap against Alabama this year. I don't know. He may not. Lance Hurd might not take a snap against Alabama this year. I don't know. He may not. I can tell you in 4 years, he will be in the NFL. Both of them. I mean, and they got those guys littered on both sidelines, just like that game has been for the last 12 years. I mean, but the difference now in that game, to me, is that both sides can win it. Mm-hmm. Like this is about to be a heavyweight fight every single year. Do you want it? I mean, sure you want it for your viewing pleasure, for just the glutton of college football, but it's your program, your team. Both squads are going to limp out of that thing. It's going to be the gladiator.
And every year it's going to be a coin flip.
And then the next week, the schedule's stacked now.
Florida.
I mean, like, you got to play Florida the next week. And I don't care if your roster is significantly better than – and look, Florida will be dealing with the same stuff, but playing them in November coming out of that war is just going to be – it's going to be different.
And we talked about this a little bit on Mic'd Up on Friday. When you look at we were kind of previewing the SEC kind of going around, and when you looked at Alabama with their current quarterback situation, obviously you know what you have, especially if it's Jalen Milroe that starts. I think you get almost a Blake Sims type offense where they're going to control the clock.
Try ground and pound you.
Oh, and just brutalize you.
Yeah.
Where
just shove you around.
Yes.
Bully
ball. And if that's the kind of style they're going to play against LSU, talk about walking out there limping. It's going to be hat on a hat.
It is going to be
loud.
Like Foreman versus Ali. I mean, it's going to be a war.
Florida might come into that game limping. They got Georgia.
The week before?
No, it's Georgia, Arkansas
Oh, they're going to run you to death
Bama,
too.
and then they play LSU.
Whew.
So they have a gauntlet.
It goes for LSU schedule. It's Alabama, then Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it better when it was Arkansas. Because if Billy gets that thing, you don't think he's going to come into LSU with his hair on fire?
Well, it's just a game you can get snuck.
Oh, absolutely. But you know what happens in that game.
It's the cleanest sneak trap in college football.
That's the most obvious one that you step into every
Who's
time.
Florida's quarterback though?
They got rid of the
exactly.
Yeah,
So
they don't had a little issue over there.
I'm telling you, that's why I love LSU.
That's what doesn't make me nervous about
LSU
Florida.
to me is the deciding factor in the Bama game right now. I don't know anything about both teams. Hadn't seen them play a down. Hadn't seen them kick a ball. Hadn't seen them throw a ball. Hadn't seen them pick a ball off. To me, if LSU and Bama is, what were they, 25 votes away from one another in Western Division title of the SEC, to me, I would give the nod to LSU because they have the quarterback. I mean, football has become such a quarterback game, right? Even if they don't have a quarterback in Alabama and they want to line Milroe up and just run him and run QB option, run pass option with him every down. I mean, like, Jaden Daniels and LSU are better.
Yeah.
They won't score against that LSU defense potentially, they won't outscore LSU's offense with Aaron Anderson as the third option. I mean, I just don't see a scenario where you want to go. To me, I look at football now like baseball. I mean, in baseball, you bet on the pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
In football now, it's just betting on the quarterback. Who's the quarterback? Can they play at every level? High school, middle school. I mean, like, go watch a middle school game now. I mean, there's 7th and 8th graders in this city throwing the ball 25 times a game, 30 times a game. If you can do that, I'll take that kid. Right? Just like at the college level where, I mean, man, the chatter on Jaden Daniels is that he's whipping it this offseason. Like, he has turned himself into a confident thrower. And if that's the case, Jaden, buddy, you could be a pro, man, because your stats are going to bling. I mean, they are going to be blinding if you are throwing the ball with confidence because you got dudes. Stop me when I don't name a pro. From Brian Thomas to Malik Neighbors to Aaron Anderson to Mason Taylor to Kamara Pimpton to Josh Williams to John Emery to
Chris Hilton.
Why do I always leave off Kyron Lacey?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I always forget about Kyron Lacey in the wide receiver chatter. Why? He's the best player on the field at wide receiver in the spring game. I mean, that's my fault. But that's how good the room is. Who else am I leaving off? I mean, we hadn't even talked about the freshmen yet. I mean, if you're if Shelton Sampson, Jaylen Brown, Kyle Parker,
Kai Preen
get on the field this year, how good are they?
Yeah.
I mean, like, really, how good are they? To crack through this lineup and get reps on Saturdays on this team at wide receiver, you got to be a pro. You have to be a pro because everybody in front of you is. So, let's say that Shelton Sampson cracks through. Let's say Kyle Parker cracks through. I mean, I could believe both. I asked Shay for a freshman's name 2 weeks ago. He told me Jaylen Brown.
They're loaded.
I mean, I didn't even say Chris Hilton. I mean, what if Chris Hilton gets right? What if Chris Hilton can truly, stay healthy, first and foremost, stay healthy, be on the field, and, I mean, nobody knows about him. Line that cat up against Florida State in the third quarter, roll him out there, and just say, Chris, put your head down and sprint.
Get ready.
Jaden, take 2 steps when you catch that thing and just uncork it. See what happens. One time. Now you got the defense thinking, you're kind of thinking, oh, shit. Every time I break the huddle, I got to find. Is 17 on the field?
17 can run, and I can't run with him.
Another one that would shock you to find out he's a redshirt sophomore.
That's understandable. He's been hurt, like.
Oh, I know, but it just feels like he's been here forever. And you always mention his name, but he's never gotten right.
Is there a senior in the group?
I think Lacey.
Lacey might be a senior.
Lacey.
Everybody else.
I mean, Neighbors is a junior. Thomas is a sophomore?
Junior.
Or junior. Thomas is a junior.
Him and Malik came in the same year.
The same class.
Because they were both.
Aaron Anderson's a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
Because they threw
Brian
Thomas
be a
like
redshirt freshman.
What, one pass at UCLA that year? I was like, oh, who's 11? He looks good. And then they just took him off the field.
Yeah, Aaron Anderson's a redshirt freshman.
We're not even talking about him.
I can't wait to see
I can't wait
what
to
they
see
do
him
with
with the ball in his hands.
If he's
Punt it to him.
Yeah, those special team issues might be fixed.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. And that ain't Jack Besh back there.
Well,
and no discredit to Besh,
no
but that's where they were. They didn't know who to put back there.
They just,
just somebody that can catch it. Then he even dropped one, and it was such a revolving door at the returner position.
Who'd they put? What was Jarvis's cousin's name?
Greg Clayton.
Yeah, they just got him back there to catch it.
Caught everything.
Yeah, just catch it.
He had some big time moments where it was close games where the whole stadium was looking at you because collectively
they were
holds
waiting on you to screw up.
Yeah, because Pitchfork was in the air, ready to get somebody, and then it was.
We all know exactly who they were waiting to get.
Go hat.
Yeah. Right.
He's the only person with that Pantone.
All right, we're going to talk to Jacques next here in the Jordy Culotta Show, built by RMB. Hey fellas, it's Jordy Culotta for my friends over at Men's Total Health. Guys, do you suffer from fatigue, decreased libido, erectile dysfunction, weight gain or loss of muscle mass, signs of depression, anxiety, hair loss, mental fog, general loss of interest? Then you might be suffering from low testosterone. Go see my friend Mike Roach and his great team over at Men's Total Health, over in Metairie at menstotalhealth.net online. And stop in and see how they can change your life today. A simple shot and some knowledge from Mike Roach can get you back up, moving with your energy, get your sex drive back, build your muscle mass, make you feel young again. All online, menstotalhealth.net. Red Stick Sports, a local staple in Baton Rouge to all sports fans, was founded back in 1981 and has remained a family business for over 40 years. Today, they still have the great selection on the floor, but they're also a leader in custom apparel for businesses, sports teams, and other groups. Take it from us, everybody over here at FM Digital Media. They help us out with all of our apparel. Let them help you out today. Go ask for Cody over at Red Stick Sports. Check him out online at redsticksports.biz.
We're all from different places and backgrounds. We've each experienced our own versions of life, but in the end, we're all on the same team. I'm part of that team, along with these players in purple and gold.
Kayshawn Buddha, Malik Neighbors, Miles Frazier,
Kyron Lacey,
Greg Brooks.
Whether on the field or in the courtroom, your team matters.
So join our team.
make a difference.
Bet. Let's get it done.
The Jordy Culotta Show is brought to you by A-Bears Lawn Maintenance. Commercial or residential, A-Bears Lawn Maintenance is ready to work. A-Bears can tackle all your homeowners association requirements. Call Blake at 225-485-8022. A-Bears Lawn Maintenance.
In a wreck, Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys is ready to go to work for you. Come meet your team.
I'm your intake specialist. I coordinate your case and connect you with your attorney and paralegal.
That's us, your legal team.
Thanks.
And we'll fight to get you every dollar you deserve.
I'm your settlements and disbursement manager, and I'm here to get you paid on time.
I'm attorney Gordon McKernan. Put our team to work today. Just call us.
All Are you looking for sound financial advice? Then get in touch with Daniel Newman of Edward Jones. You can call him today at 225-261-8262 or email him daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. If you're planning for retirement, saving for college for children or grandchildren, or just looking for sound investment opportunities, get in touch with Daniel today, 225-261-8262, located on Magnolia Square Drive in Central. Daniel Newman of Edward Jones.
Hey Tiger fans, when you're traveling through Natchez, Mississippi, make sure to visit Tom and Wright Granning at Go Mart and On The Go Deli, where you can fill up your tank and your belly. Go Mart has clean restrooms, community coffee, an awesome beer cave, and a great selection of anything you may need on your trip. Located at 4 Sergeant Prentice Drive as you're entering Natchez on the left. Also stop by Wardo's Po' Boys at 309 North Broadway on the beautiful Natchez Bluff, where the Po' Boys are so good you'll swear you're in Cajun country.
Welcome back. Jordy Culotta Show live, powered by R&B Builders and daily brought to you by Katie's Restaurant down in New Orleans on Iberville Street. Check out Katie's online, katiesinmidcity.com, katiesinmidcity.com. Speaking of New Orleans, Saints hosting training camp day 1. Guess who's en route? Our guy, JD, Jacques Doucet from WAFB 9 Sports. He'll have all of the first day action for you on the desk tonight. Jacques, good morning. How are you?
Morning. How's everyone doing over there?
Doing good, buddy. Missing you in studio, but we know you're on assignment heading down. This has got to be one of the good days for you, Jacques. I know that you love covering the Saints. You are routinely in the Dome on Sundays, and even at least the start of camp, maybe not a couple of weeks from now, but the start of camp's an exciting day.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you kind of get that feeling every year when this time of year comes around. You're pumped up about the start of LSU football. Went to SEC Media Days last week. Kevin Baptiste doing a great job for us yesterday in Birmingham with SWAC Media Day and the Southern Jags and Grambling Tigers. And now, heading down today. There won't be any fans there today, but there's 22 practices with the Saints. I think 7 of them, they allow fans to be there, 2,500, and it was on a ticket system this year. So apparently those tickets are already gone, gobbled up. So, and then the preseason games are approaching. And so, yeah, this is that time of year where you're really excited. You're up early. You're going to practices, putting the sunblock on. Everyone's excited about what's ahead in terms of their team. And then about mid-August or so, everyone's kind of hits a wall, tired, heat's beating everyone down, kind of ready to play games, and everyone in the media has kind of done all the features they can on the different people. But in terms of me and this team, I plan on trying to learn a lot. I haven't been to as many Saints games in recent years as I have in the past, and there's just been so much that's changed down there with the personnel and the shifting of the guard with, the Drew Brees, Sean Payton era coming to an end. So I feel like there's kind of a new energy and excitement around Derek Carr and what can happen. But certainly I think the jury is out on, Dennis Allen and a lot on this roster.
What was your reaction to see Jimmy Graham was re-inked to New Orleans?
On one hand, is this kind of like a nostalgic kiss and make up type deal? How nice. So Jimmy Graham's coming back. And then on the other, you just kind of wonder, is he going to make any kind of impact on the field? He's 36 years old. Time gets away from all of us. And certainly I remember it was a great story when the Saints found him. He was a kind of diamond in the rough. And he teaming up with Drew Brees, they became oftentimes an unstoppable tandem. I certainly remember what should have been in 2011 when they were at San Francisco in the second round game. I think it was Graham that Brees was under pressure, threw it up. Graham caught it, ran into the end zone. Should have been the game-winning score, and then the Saints let him go down the field and lose one of the most heartbreaking games in Saints history. They would have hosted the NFC Championship game against the Giants and probably spanked them and gone to the Super Bowl. But that's neither here nor there. But, yeah, and it was just unfortunate. I mean, it's an old cliche there that money ruins everything, but I really felt like money ruined everything with Jimmy Graham and the Saints. They start telling him he's a wide receiver, not a tight end, and he should be getting this amount of money. And then eventually they parted ways, and he was never the same player when he wasn't playing with Drew Brees, although he made some Pro Bowls and whatnot. So, yeah, it's cool. It'll be cool to talk to him today. I think they're bringing him today to speak. So it'll be cool to see him again and hear him talk. But, how much of an impact he's going to be that Drew Brees isn't there anymore and he's 36 years old, I don't know. And he didn't even play football last year. He was out of the league. I remember him, Jordy. Remember the Saints playoff game in the empty Superdome when they beat the Bears. I think he caught the touchdown on the final play of the game and then just ran into the locker room.
Just ran off.
That was one of the last times I saw Jimmy Graham.
One-handed catch. It was a beautiful play, and that was just 2 years ago.
That's the last time anybody saw him.
I mean, really, if that's who he is, maybe so. Maybe so. I don't know. David Carr is now the New Orleans Saints. God, dog it. Derek Carr is now the Saints quarterback, JD. Now with the transition over, what are the expectations with Carr here in a new home?
Yeah, so 5 different guys have started at quarterback for the Saints in the last 2 years, and there's been some ugly games, right? I mean, that team that won 9 games with Sean Payton his last year, God bless him. That was some putrid offensive football we saw at times on some big stages. That's right. And the defense has just played at a real high level. So I think this is kind of the first time since Drew Brees that, they rallied around Jameis. The fans rallied around Jameis, and he got off to a great start his first year and then got hurt. But I think, okay, the Saints are really putting this guy out in front. This is our leader. This is the face of our franchise moving forward. And he doesn't have to play amazing football, but certainly they have to do better. I mean, I think last year's offense was the worst in the history of the Saints. I think they threw 24 touchdown passes, which in today's NFL is amazingly low. And even Drew Brees at the end of his career, when he was a shell of his former self physically, the offense was still scoring a top 10 offense. So I think Michael Thomas obviously is a big question mark. Can he finally stay on the field? Chris Olave making his going into a sophomore season, so to speak, after going over 1,000 yards in year 1. Our old buddy Foster Moreau, what can he contribute in the passing game? So I think they've got their guy, and the Superdome is still sold out, and we know what people pay for those tickets to go to those Saints games. So, I think it sets up, Jordy, to be a nice year. Is the Saints organization top to bottom still one of the best in the league? I don't know about that, but it sets up with their schedule and with this new quarterback and some other things to, go 10-7 and maybe win the division and win a playoff game. And, we were a victim of our own expectations where towards the end, it was like with Peyton and Breeze, it was like, dang it, we didn't make the Super Bowl. We didn't get the number 1 seed. And then after kind of 2 seasons where they've been mediocre, I think a season like 10 wins and making it to the second round of the playoffs will get a lot of people excited if they can do that.
Jacques, if I was down there, my eyeballs would first go to Michael Thomas if I was on the practice field watching them go this morning. He is expected to be a full go. He tweeted out, I believe it was last night or 2 nights ago, that it's a great time to be a Saint. What are your expectations for Mike Thomas here in his bounce back from another injury?
My expectations, can they get 10 games out of him? I mean, how many games has he played in the last, 2 years, 2.5?
3?
6? 3? Just to be healthy, just to catch some passes, just to play. I mean, it's a 17-game schedule. I mean, can we get 12? Right. 12 games out of him? I don't know what to make of it. I know, you want to believe the Saints that he is doing his absolute best and that he wants to be out there. Whether it's fair or not, I just think when guys collect millions of dollars and don't do a whole lot and don't even participate a whole lot, it gets people angry because they go to work every day and they're working hard jobs to not make a lot of money. So whether that's fair or not, that's the case. I just hope that he can finally be an impact player and play and be counted on every game. Because we saw, just in the little he played last year, he was a huge reason they won that season opener at the Falcons and rallied and came back to win in the season opener. So, Jarvis Landry's out of football. He's not with the Saints at the moment. And then I guess Shaheed, did I get that right? Yes. is the third option there. So we'll see.
Expecting big things from Chris Olave this year, though.
Yeah, I think so. I listened to the post-game shows a lot with Bobby Hebert and those guys, and they seem to be, giving him kind of a B- every week, that he still needed to get a little tougher, maybe, step his game up a little bit. But as a rookie, to be the leading receiver, that said a lot. But indeed, last year going into the year, we felt like we had these 3 great receivers in Olave, Michael Thomas, and Jarvis Landry, and really only one of those guys panned out consistently, and it was Olave. So, yeah, I think it's a big second year for him as well, and just a big year for the offense to prove that they can consistently score points because, for years we got very, very spoiled with, seeing the Saints score 35 points in a half. It's not unusual.
I can hear Bobby screaming, he's no Eric Martin, Jacques.
Now, you got to step your game up, Chris Olave. You got to be a tougher player than that. Come on now. My funniest thing, so this is what I always say about Bobby Hebert. He's the king of back-to-back. So, like he'll say, man, you think you can throw the ball 60 times per game? Yeah, no. You got to run that football.
He's the king of asking the question and answering it, too. I love it. Like, he'll ask the question, answer it, and then, kind of present his answer as the question. And then you're like, yeah, okay, I got you, Bubs.
Yeah, no.
One of my favorites, too, is, real quick, one of my favorites, too, is like the Saints were out the playoff race, but they were kind of playing out the string, and he's like, man, yeah, you're a professional. Man, you got to go out there. No one's going to feel sorry for yourself.
Jacques, were you in the post game of the Natty in 2012 when Bobby went toe-to-toe with Les and asked him if he wanted to get on the blackboard?
I was not. I was in there for a bit, and then I left. And then I want to thank Bobby because it moved me to second place in terms of the media guy who went off on Les Miles in a press conference. Right. But yeah, it was. I remember Steve Schneider. We were standing on the field about to do a live shot, and he goes, Bobby Hebert just went off on Les Miles, saying it was ridiculous that Jared Lee didn't play and everything. And so it was just like me, it could be viewed as unprofessional by some people, but I think Bobby Hebert earned a lot of points with LSU fans that day for his rant.
Jacques, last one. I know you're getting to camp. I'll get you out of here. What's the temperature around Dennis Allen, in your opinion, going into this season?
You know, I was thinking about Bob Starkey today, LSU women's assistant coach, how he told me, you know, when people talked about, hey, why don't you become a head coach? Don't you want to be a head coach? And he'd say, look, a man, like Clint Eastwood once said, a man's got to know his limitations. And so, you know, just like in rock bands, some people play the drums and the bass, but they're not made to be the front man. And I guess that's the question with Dennis Allen. He is a fantastic football coach. He's been a fantastic defensive coordinator. Is he a front man? Is he a head coach? And I think that's a legitimate question. He does not exude the swag and the confidence and the arrogance that Sean Payton did when he was on the sideline. And there was a confidence that Sean Payton gave you, calling those plays and chewing his gum and pointing at people and shouting at people that, you know, he was the greatest coach in the history of the Saints. And Dennis Allen is a bit more cerebral, I guess, or a little more restrained. He's not as emotional. You don't see him blow up. He's not a big post-game press conference guy in terms of chewing us up and spitting us out or going off on somebody in the media. He doesn't do all that. And so I guess there's a big question. It's very similar, and they're not comparable, but they are. It's like, well, you know, when Ed Ogeron was at Ole Miss and failed, it was like, well, maybe that was just a bad job, and it was a good place to set up. And Dennis Allen was with the Raiders, and that's a bad job, bad organization. But now he's with a good organization or a team that should win. And his first season was 7-10. And I definitely think that there's a lot of fans kind of looking, hey, man, you got to step it up. You got to be more of a leader. You got to be – this is professional football, and, you know, let's see what you got. So I think there's definitely give him a mulligan in year one, but we got to see some improvement in year two.
Looking forward to the coverage, JD. Enjoy camp this weekend. We'll be watching on 9 Sports and, of course, on Twitter at Jacques Doucet. Thank you, man.
Yeah, and real quick, we got one more Red Rock and Blue event. It'll be August 19th at the Varsity Vertical Horizon. Multi-platinum artists will be there. Tickets are starting to move. Be a part of it. If you're the age 35 to 50, you want to be at this show, call some of your old high school buddies and get together, and this will be a great show for Red Rock and Blue. We want to thank everyone part of the catering reunion, and we want to thank Chase Tyler, Taylor Nauta, and Ben Ragsdale for doing a great country show this past weekend and helping us raise a lot more money. We've got our softball tournament this weekend, and so that's it, redrockandblue.com. Thanks for having me.
redrockandblue.com. Later, JD. There he is, Jacques Doucet, checking in every Wednesday just like he does. Don't forget, tomorrow, Greg Brooks is going to be here 8 a.m. Looking forward to chopping it up with Greg about the defensive backfield and another season here in Baton Rouge. Come back with us tomorrow morning. Hit that like button, share button, comment button. Have a great day. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Mic'd up tonight, 6 o'clock?
I'm not sure.
Sweet. Talk to you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m.
Maybe Friday.